Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Before diving into today's case, I would like to put out a warning. This is a twisted story, containing graphic details, and so viewers' discretion is advised. This is the case of Dmitry and Natalia Baksheeva, a cannibal couple from Krasnodar, Russia, whose crimes shocked the country. Our story takes place in the quiet Russian city of Krasnodar, where life seemed idyllic and uneventful. But beneath the surface, something sinister was unfolding. Dmitry and Natalia Baksheeva were an unassuming couple who lived there in the city. To their neighbors, they appeared as a regular pair, a bit antisocial and liked to keep to themselves, but little did anyone know what lurked behind closed doors. In 2017, a group of construction workers discovered a discarded cell phone. When the workers powered up the cell phone, it requested no password or anything of that sort, so it was quite easy for them to get into it. Realizing they could just figure out who the owner was and return it, they decided to search the phone thoroughly for any clues on who it belonged to. Instead, they found disturbing images, much more than what they had bargained for. Photos of dismembered human body parts as well as gruesome acts of violence that shocked them to the core. In one photo, a man was seen with a severed hand in his mouth, and in another, the same man could be seen smiling at the camera, more like showing his work. They immediately took the phone to the authorities, who swiftly began an investigation. The man in the photos was identified to be Dmitry Baksheeva. Dmitry Baksheeva was born in January of 1982 to a single mother who decided she didn't really have the energy, resources, or capabilities to care for a child, so she took him to an orphanage and left him there. Thankfully, Dmitry wasn't there for long, as he was adopted by a childless couple soon after. When the couple met the cute little boy Dmitry, they immediately fell in love with him. Thankfully, the adoption process was a success and Dmitry was adopted. From that time onward, he had an amazing childhood. He grew up in an amazing neighborhood with friends and family who loved him immensely, and he lacked nothing. But unfortunately, this nice life didn't last for long, and at the age of 14, Dmitry's mom was diagnosed with cancer and she sadly lost her battle. This was a hard blow to the young man, as this was the woman he had known all his life as his mom. This was someone he loved and someone who cared for him, and so it was difficult for him to come to terms with it. But it wasn't only Dmitry who was going through a tough time. His dad was also finding it difficult to cope without the love of his life, and so with time, his dad changed. He would often get angry at the slightest provocation and would say all manner of things to Dmitry. In his grief, he eventually decided he could no longer take care of Dmitry, and so he sent him packing. At the time, Dmitry was just a young 15-year-old who had just had his entire world crumble, and not wanting to go back to the orphanage, he decided he could take care of himself, and so, he went into the streets doing manual jobs to make a living, and in the process, got on the wrong side of the law. In 2012, at the age of 30, Dmitry met Natalia, a widow who was 7 years older than him, and the two fast became friends. The friendship eventually turned into love and they started a relationship. Dmitry soon moved in with Natalia, as she owned an apartment which she had inherited from her late husband. Natalia worked as a senior nurse at an aviation academy, and Dmitry was a repairman and a general worker, meaning he was down to do different tasks as long as he got paid. One thing they had in common was their love for alcohol, and this love eventually led Natalia to being dismissed from work due to her chronic alcoholism. It was at this time the couple became loners of some sort, because prior to this, they would always have friends over and they would hang out with friends at their home or outside their home, but after Natalia's dismissal, they just became loners. They stopped hanging out with friends, stopped publicly meeting up with people, and even stopped interacting with their very own neighbors. Natalia eventually got another job as a cleaner in a school, and although their joint earnings wasn't much, the two still found a way to fund their alcoholism. The police invited Dmitry for questioning, and he initially denied knowing what they were talking about. But when confronted with the chilling pictures, he told them the truth. In his words, the couple had been drinking with a young woman, Elena, when Natalia and Elena got into a quarrel. He told authorities that Natalia in anger had asked him to take care of her rival. In other words, his wife asked him to kill the young woman, and he, being the obedient husband who obviously couldn't think for himself, took a knife and stabbed Elena multiple times. But that wasn't the end of it all. They then decided they were going to dismember the body, preserve some parts to eat, and dispose the remaining parts. The authorities were obviously shocked to hear this. The police went to their home to confirm their story. The residence was so untidy you wouldn't believe people lived there. Clothes were strewn everywhere, and there wasn't even space on the floor to walk through. What they discovered inside the home would leave even seasoned investigators horrified. They found fragments of a human body in saline solution, severed body parts in the freezer, and a jar with unknown content. They also found evidence of cannibalism that suggested an unimaginable level of depravity. In the trash bins at the back of the apartments, authorities also found evidence of human remains. In total, 8 body parts were found and immediately taken to experts, who eventually determined the body parts belonged to one person, Elena. But that wasn't all. The police also found pictures and videos of other gruesome activities dating back to December 1999. One of the pictures they had found in the couple's house showed what is believed to be a human head being served as Christmas dinner. But the date on the picture was 1999, and going by dates when the couple met, they weren't together at that time. When the couple were questioned about these pictures, they confessed to something more sinister. In their own words, they had killed more than 30 people over the years. When asked where they had buried the bodies, they confessed to have preserved human parts in their freezer and had eaten them over time. Then, when their supply of human meats ran low, they knew it was time to kill another person. Their motives and the extent of their crimes left even the most experienced detectives dumbfounded. By this time, rumors were already making rounds regarding the case, and the authorities decided to put out a public statement, which they did. People added their spin to the reports, and it was believed the couple had gotten victims from various dating sites. They lured the unsuspecting victims to their home, and that was the last time these people were ever seen. It was also rumored that they kept the remains preserved in cans and supplied the canned human meats they couldn't eat to the school where Natalia worked and other catering establishments. Now, apart from human remains, the remains of cats and dogs were also found being preserved in various cans. The entire city was left in shock as they grappled with the horror that had unfolded in their midst. Many questioned how they could have lived alongside such monsters without suspicion. The rumors were soon debunked by the authorities. But although debunked by authorities, the public still believed there was some truth in the initial reports. Firstly, why would the couple confess to killing and eating people for fun? They knew they were going to get in trouble, and offenders would usually lie about their deeds to escape punishments, not confess to doing them. Secondly, why would the authorities give a public statement, only to retract it? The public believed there was some sort of cover-up going on, but since there was no evidence to prove whether these claims were actually true or false, people were left to believe whatever they wanted to. The couple was charged with just one murder, being the murder of Elena. The trial didn't last too long, but both prosecutors and their defense had a lot to say. In the words of the prosecutors, the process of killing Elena and the manner in which her body was dismembered and her remains preserved wasn't an amateur job. Dmitry wasn't a butcher or surgeon, and even if he was being told what to do by his wife, it was too clean of a job to be a first-time thing. Therefore, Prosecutors believed there were other victims, but unfortunately, there was no evidence to support these claims. Natalia Baksheeva was convicted in February 2019 as the court found her guilty of incitement to murder. She was sentenced to 10 years in a penal colony, which means she would be somewhat exiled and living in harsh conditions and then spend a year and 6 months in a normal prison. Natalia appealed the decision, but her sentence remained unchanged. On June 28, 2019, Dmitry Baksheeva was sentenced to 12 years and 2 months in a maximum security prison. In addition, he was prescribed compulsory supervision and treatment by a psychiatrist as it was believed he had to have some psych issues to do some of the things he did. I mean, this man had a severed human hand in his mouth, so he obviously had issues. On February 16, 2020, Dmitry Baksheeva died of untreated type 1 diabetes while in custody, and Natalia Baksheeva is currently serving her sentence.